if we already mentioned returning captive, well, let's start with like we discussed it a little bit before we started this. Maybe you want to give a little bit, maybe you want to give a little bit of background to this book, Returning Captive. What is it about? A little bit, just in a couple of sentences.
Returning Captive is about a man who returns to Jerusalem after several years away and has lived here for 2 periods before and has always dreamed of really being able to be here permanently. When he was young, he came here, he served in the IDF and the infantry, the army. Then he came back after leaving for grad school for 2 years. And now he's been offered a post at Hebrew University, and he's given up his post in the US that is in many ways much more comfortable. And he's coming back to buy a house to live in because he has a little bit of inheritance. And he's walking along a stretch that has always been a favorite stretch of his between the neighborhoods of Baka and Katamon in Southwest Jerusalem. There are railroad tracks. He's walking along the railroad tracks, and all of a sudden he hears a noise and he sees a house he's never seen before, even though he was sure he knew every inch. This was like a regular place that he walked, and he goes and he falls in love with this house. That's sort of this little weird house surrounded by garbage, and he ends up buying it. And that night, when he's considering buying it, he goes back and he starts hearing strange sounds. So what develops out of this is the primary timeline is from Passover 2005, when he first sees the house, to Passover 2006. And what happens in that timeline is that these disturbances build and build and build, and he can barely sleep there at night. They're terrifying things. He hears explosions that nobody else hears. He hears tapping noises at weird rhythms that he can't understand. He smells cooking smells when nobody's been cooking there. There's a very unsettling scene where he gets up in the middle of the night, and it's this very strange house because it seems like a 4-person's house, but it has this really elegant tile floor. And the tiles seem to be becoming dislodged, and he gets swallowed up in the floor and wakes up. Then he passes out and he wakes up and he's lying on the floor with a big bump on his head. So he can't live in this house. So what is that sort of on the surface, right? That's what we call the outer story. The inner story is how his love for a place has drawn him back, even though he's not comfortable there. And it's a haunted house, or a potentially haunted house. He doesn't actually know. That's a whole nother side of it. But the idea, it's a haunted house in a haunted city. Because even though people don't think about it, Jerusalem is the most haunted city in the world. It has been the focus of history in so many periods over time, going back, some people say 3,000 years.